Walking through the grand ruins of Angkor Wat, you can almost hear the builders whisper, "We've conquered the floods, we've conquered the forests. Surely we'll stand for all time." And yet, in less than 100 years, all that was left were 7 small villages and these broken stones. Cambodia is the only country in the world to feature a building on its flag. For the Khmer people, Angkor Wat stands as a symbol of their long and too often tragic heritage. Inhabited by almost 1 million people at its peak in the 13th century, this was a city whose power was derived by its natural wealth and the management of its water resources.
Angkor Wat នេះវាមានភាពអស្ចារ្យសម្រាប់ស្រុកខ្មែរយើងគឺថានឹងជាប្រលឹងជាវិញ្ញាណរបស់ព្រះជាខ្មែរ
Rising in the 8th century AD, the Angkorian Empire ruled most of Southeast Asia for 600 years. In this time, it produced one of the most significant and awe-inspiring monuments in all of human history.
From an artistic and religious point of view, obviously it's immensely important. I mean, it really is one of the greatest aesthetic achievements in all of human history. And altogether it comprised probably the largest complex of settlement before the Industrial Revolution ever in human history.
At its height, between the 11th and the 13th centuries, a line of great kings constructed a series of vast structures, including Angkor Wat, completed in 1150, that would immortalize their achievements. At the heart of Angkorian power was a feat of hydrological engineering unrivaled anywhere in the pre-industrial world.
The way the water management system works is essentially that this is a gigantic infrastructure. Its northern third is a catchment and control area. In the middle, which is the area where the great temples are and these barai are located, is the holding station for the water. And then the southern portion, south of the centre of the city, all the way down to the lake, is the distributor area, where the water is spread out across the landscape to be used for various economic purposes. The engineering scale is really industrial in its magnitude.
While common wisdom attributes the fall of Angkor to invasion, the work of Professor Roland Fletcher and his team at the Greater Angkor Project has revealed a story of collapse with far greater resonance for a modern world facing an uncertain environmental future.
So what you have is a system that is removing forest. It's removing forest cover and it's replacing forest cover with a very limited ecology based on rice and on economic trees. There were serious droughts and there were also very, very heavy monsoon periods. The most ominous piece of information that we have found is that the big southern canals of Angkor are completely filled with sand. So what we appear to be seeing is lots of rapid movement, huge quantities of water, and those canals are simply buried. And when those canals are buried, they're dead, they don't function anymore.
It is easy to see the relevance of Angkor's rise and fall, easy to see for the modern world. Our contemporary megacities, with footprints that dwarf the scale of Angkor, are also facing the onset of climate change, and everywhere, forests are being felled with terrifying speed.
What becomes somewhat eerie from our point of view in the modern world is that we live in big low-density cities and we depend upon massive infrastructure, and we're also in a situation where significant climate change has occurred. Well, that's the scenario of Angkor. The big low-density city dispersed across the landscape, and then a big change in climate.
In modern Cambodia, the lessons of Angkor are all too clear to those whose livelihoods depend on the relationships between forests, rivers, and farming. With 70% of the country dependent on agriculture, Cambodia is particularly vulnerable to the ecological threats that caused the collapse of Angkor.
ទាក់ទងនឹងព្រៃឈើនៅក្នុងប្រទេសកម្ពុជាតាមពិតគឺស្ទើរតែគ្រប់កន្លែងគឺត្រូវរងនឹងការកាប់បំផ្លាញបាទចំពោះអាកាសធាតុក៏ជាកត្តាមួយដែលក្នុងនាមខ្ញុំជាប្រមេរូបក៏តែងតែសង្កេតឃើញថាពីមួយឆ្នាំទៅមួយឆ្នាំគឺតែងតែមានការផ្លាស់ប្ដូរនេះជារឿងសំខាន់ពេលយើងគ្មានទឹកភ្លៀងគ្រប់គ្រាន់ជាពិសេសពេលដែលគ្មានភ្លៀងធ្លាក់ចំពោះយើងជាកសិករគឺយើងពឹងផ្អែកទៅលើទឹកភ្លៀងព្រោះអីយើងគ្មានប្រព័ន្ធស្រោចស្រពប្រព័ន្ធយើងគឺអត់មានប្រព័ន្ធស្រោចស្រព
With development in full swing, the forests of Cambodia are rapidly disappearing. However, the balance between progress and sustainability is all too fragile, and already there is evidence that in some areas, the damage has already been done.
In a sense, history is repeating in various parts of the world, I think, where you see a very clear misuse of resources, particularly water in some areas, in ways that are manifestly unsustainable. And again, in some ways, I think there's a complacency or just a faith that the people who know best, the kings and engineers of Angkor, for instance, will fix it and make it go away. What you see around here, really, in the ruins of these temples is proof that that's just not always the case.
Although a marvel of human achievement, Angkor is also a moral lesson for the modern world.
And so one must wonder whether or not in these modern times we ignore our dependence on water to our own peril.